Hello everyone, Ender7 here. As a lot of you probably know, there's been a lot of changes to logic in the past couple weeks. Most importantly, at least to me, they've broken the RC glitch, which is very, very not fun. So that means that my older video for it no longer works, but never fear, I have a new one. It works, trust me. The only thing that does not work are cameras, unfortunately, due to how they changed logic and how they changed build separation and things. It's very frustrating. I'll try to walk you through what they did to break the logic, how it's broken, and then also a tutorial of how to do the new system, all in this video. You can click around if you want. If I can figure out how the silly little segment things work in YouTube, I'll try to make something like that, but you might end up just having to click around and guess where it is. I'm sorry, I'll do my best to make this as navigable as possible. Anyways, let's get right into it. The way that this used to work was you just take your wheels on, let's say you had a better build here, right? I'm just gonna put an engine on it. This would obviously be your main build, whether it's like a car, a drone, or a missile or something, anything like that. You'd build it, and then you would come over here, take a detachable block, and then you would take a NOR gate. Now, the biggest problem with this is the way that build separation works, and I'll show you why in a second. I'm just gonna real quick put the inputs in right here. That's pretty basic, and then you move a wheel up and down or anything on the main build. Don't pay too close attention to this, because again, this is outdated, this doesn't work. But then, what you do is you take the logic into build mode. Now, here's where the problem is. You take it into build mode, and oh, what do you know? It brought the entire thing into build mode with you. So you're like, okay, well maybe let's, try moving something in the back up and down. Nope! It still doesn't work. No matter what you do, nothing that you can do will make these separate naturally. And even if you try like removing the detachable block, that doesn't work. It's really unfortunate. It's really annoying. This took me a long time to figure out. But there is a new way to do this, and I'm going to show you how to do it right now. All you need to do is take distance sensors. Now you might be saying, oh, the old distance sensor method, that still works, right? No, it does not work. Do not try it. It's like almost all of them, or at least all the ones I know, rely on having a seat somewhere in the build. They will not work, okay? But this method does work, and it's very similar, so it should be pretty easy for someone who's used the distance sensor method, or at least heard of it. It should be pretty easy for them to understand. I'll just put a couple distance sensors down, like so. This isn't a very refined version, but I'm going to just put some inputs into the engine. The reason I set that out to put scale to -1 is because that's going to be what S is. We're going to make it move backwards. That's not very important. But now, just for safety, I'm going to stick an anchor pin on this. You don't need to do that. But then same thing, move wheel up and down, spawn that in, detach it, and see, now it will go back and forth. So that's cool, you might say. Well, it's kind of lame though, because we don't have a way to, do it faster, more easily. We have to walk back and forth every single time we want our car to do something, and add in steering and weapons and stuff. That's no fun. You don't want to be doing that the entire time. I understand it. I don't like it either. But there's a fairly simple fix. Now, the simple fix is not putting a seat on. If you put a seat on, it's just gonna break. It does not work anymore. Putting a seat with pistons on, this is why the old piston and distance sensor methods will not work. That's because if you have a seat anywhere attached to any of this build whatsoever, even if it's by more detachable blocks, it's not going to do it. It's not going to work. None of this works anymore. So you have to get rid of the seat. But here's what you can do. It's actually fairly simple. All you need to do is spawn this in, and then have a different build that can trigger stuff. And so this is where this comes in. It may look like it's just a platform with wheels and pistons on it. That's probably because it is. What this is used for is just maneuvering yourself over to where your logic is. This is some, It's just slightly more advanced logic for a car with turning and stuff. But now, see, you just have your pistons do it. The seat's not attached to the main build, so it works. Now, this is also why cameras don't work. I had a camera set to 1. It doesn't work, as you can see, because the seat is not connected to the to that logic strip on the ground. But it does mean that you can more easily move your RC builds around. Now, this isn't configured to this build, so I'll have to figure out what keybinds do what, but hold up. Okay, so in this case, W is forwards, spacebar is backwards. You can obviously set your pistons to whatever you want for each build, but as you can see, if I can just move backwards a bit, this works. And the way that you do this is literally just by having pistons spaced like so to wherever you know your distance sensors are. So if you just look at my mouse a second, I know that this is forwards, I think, and this is backwards. And so if we just had, oh no, this is forwards. This one right here is forwards. This one right here is backwards. And so if I just set this to S, right, so that W was here, this piston would go onto here. This piston, which is S, would go onto here. That would work, as you can see. If I can just real quickly get them in the right spot. Now again, this isn't configured to this build, but that goes forwards, this goes backwards. Now the pistons are also doing other stuff. That's just because, again, this thing isn't meant for this build. I could real quick just make something that is. So I just have to remember this is the detachment. I'm just going to respawn this in because I can. This is forwards, this is backwards. That one that I didn't step on is detachment. And so all you need to do, come over here, build something. I recommend something with a decent base so that if you add more stuff on later, it can, it'll work nicely. And then just make this, decently wide. That's probably too wide. I don't need it that wide because I have a very small amount of pistons. I just have 3. This is probably enough for 3. And then you take your 4 wheels. They don't need to be anything fancy. This does not have to look good because it's not meant to be looked at. It's just the controlling unit. Some steering and some movement. I'll give it a drag. I give it Bulldog engines because those don't move too quickly, and so it'll be easier to get in position. Also, make sure that these inputs on the car are something other than what your inputs are in your vehicle. So I just use arrow keys if I were you. Now I can drive this around. Arrow keys. I'm going to make the steering slightly more intense. I'd say 3. Might be a little much, but that's fine. Now the most important bit, pistons. I'm sorry if this is slightly boring, but I really wanted to, get this out before anyone else did, so no one would say, you're stealing people's work again. It was a bit of a problem. Some people may know about that. Some people thought I was stealing people's work. Anyways, that's not important. What is important is making this work. Now, I'm just going to make sure that my piston is correct. So, for setup, I would make whatever button you want this to be, whatever button you want it to trigger. That should be, I think that's S, so I'm going to make that S. That needs to be on the negative input. Speed, -100, start position 0, auto reset. That basically just makes the piston instantly go in and out. If you're stuck, a piston, if you do it normally, has a max speed of like this. Now that's pretty fast, but for high precision stuff like flying a plane, that's not something you're going to want, especially with the amount of input delay that already happens from RC. But I'm just going to really quick fix that. Yep. I broke it somehow. Logic's being weird, I tell ya. Logic's been being real weird. I'm just gonna put that back in. Where is it? Here it is. Doink. Doink. Okay. Did it, same exact thing I had as last time, but I'm just gonna guess it's gonna work better. Yep, it's the exact same thing I had last time, but it's fine. Trailmakers does what it wants. And so, now, alright, this looks right, so that's gonna be S, this is gonna be W, and then I'll have this be toggled to, I'll just have it be like 1 or something. That's gonna be the disconnection thing. Alright, I'm just gonna scooch on over here, line myself up. You also could put anchor pins on this if you wanted to pin yourself down, but you don't really need it. Friction pads in the bottom too on pistons or something if you wanted to. But, yep, and yep. And see, now that works. I don't have steering, so there's no steering, but as you can see, this, this works, and there's not a lot of input delay. There's gonna be some, just because that's how RC works, but that's pretty much it. And if you have any problems with it, anything not working, please let me know in the comments. I would love to help you. Since Trailmakers has been buggy lately, there's some bugs with especially the distance sensors and stuff, they just don't activate. So if things aren't working, I recommend just looking at the block, going into configure, figuring out what the exact settings of that block are, and then deleting the block, putting one back that doesn't have the settings, and applying those settings to it, if that makes sense. Basically just deleting the block and putting it back. That might be helpful, because Trailmakers has gotten to that point, at least nowadays, where it just won't work, and so you just manually reset it, and it will work. It's very weird, but true, especially, again, with the distance sensors. I've been rambling for far too long, so I think this is a good point to close off the video. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and we're out. Bye!